For years, the British press has been trying to sell the public a very particular story about Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex. Depending on the day, they're supposedly miserable, isolated, desperate for attention, plotting a return to royal life, or secretly begging for reconciliation. Yet every time reality peeks through the cracks, that carefully constructed narrative becomes harder to maintain. The latest example? Endless speculation that King Charles wants to spend time with his grandchildren and somehow repair family relationships that have been left to gather dust for years. A touching story, in theory. The problem is that actions exist. And unfortunately for the palace, actions have a nasty habit of ruining sentimental public relations campaigns. Harry and Meghan are living in sunny California, with their children in a beautiful home that's more than 3 times the size of Frogmore Cottage. They have privacy. They have freedom. They have year-round sunshine. They have control over their own schedules. Most importantly, they have the ability to raise their children outside the suffocating royal fishbowl that dominated so much of their lives. Meanwhile, back in Britain, we're apparently expected to believe that the family relationship deteriorated because Harry and Meghan simply drifted away. No, that's not what happened. The reality is far less convenient. If King Charles genuinely wanted a close relationship with his son and grandchildren, stripping Harry and Meghan of Frogmore Cottage was a strange way of showing it. After all, Frogmore wasn't just another royal property, it was their UK home. It was the one place where Harry, Meghan, and their children could stay when visiting Britain. It represented a physical connection to Harry's home country. Taking it away sent a message. And despite what palace defenders may claim, that message wasn't exactly wrapped in warmth and affection. It was the royal equivalent of changing the locks and then acting surprised when family members stopped visiting. You don't remove someone's home base and then wonder why they don't pop round for tea every other weekend. Well, apparently you do if you're a royal strategist. Even more baffling is the way parts of the British media discuss the situation. One minute, Harry and Meghan are criticised for leaving Britain. The next minute, they're criticised for not visiting Britain enough. Then they're criticised for wanting security when they do visit Britain. Then they're criticised for not bringing their children. Then come endless articles lamenting how unfortunate it is that Charles doesn't see his grandchildren. It's a cycle so predictable that it practically writes itself. The conversation often ignores a rather important detail: security. Harry has repeatedly expressed concerns about the safety of his family when travelling to the United Kingdom. Whether people agree with him or not is beside the point. He has made his position clear. From his perspective, security is not some luxury add-on, it's a necessity. Yet many commentators discuss the issue as though Harry is refusing to visit because he suddenly developed an allergy to British weather. Although, to be fair, after experiencing California sunshine, who could blame him? Let's be honest. If you were choosing between endless grey skies and Montecito sunshine, that's not exactly a difficult decision. California offers something the Sussexes spent years struggling to find within the royal system: peace. Not perfect peace, of course. Public figures never truly escape scrutiny. But there is a noticeable difference between being followed by a celebrity media culture and being relentlessly hunted by a tabloid machine that treats every facial expression like a constitutional crisis. Harry and Meghan didn't move to California because they hated Britain. They moved because they wanted a different life. A life where their children could play without becoming daily tabloid content. A life where every family outing wouldn't generate 10 opinion columns. A life where every disagreement wouldn't become front-page entertainment. That decision seems increasingly understandable with each passing year. What's particularly striking is how often critics predicted disaster. Remember all the warnings? The Sussexes would fail financially. They would disappear from public life. Nobody would be interested in them. Their marriage wouldn't survive. Their projects would collapse. Their influence would evaporate. And yet, years later, Harry and Meghan remain among the most discussed public figures in the world. Their critics spend an extraordinary amount of time insisting they're irrelevant, usually through articles, television segments, podcasts, opinion columns, and social media debates that discuss them endlessly. It's a fascinating way of demonstrating irrelevance. The obsession itself tells a story. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan continue building a life on their own terms. That doesn't mean everything they do is perfect. No public figure gets everything right. But there is a noticeable difference between making your own mistakes and living under a system where every decision requires institutional approval. The royal family has always excelled at projecting stability. What it has not always excelled at is accepting accountability. When relationships break down, palace narratives often present events as unfortunate misunderstandings that simply happened, as though no decisions were made, as though nobody had agency, as though circumstances emerged from thin air. But relationships don't collapse in a vacuum. They deteriorate because of choices. And if King Charles genuinely regrets the current distance between himself and his grandchildren, then, well, it's worth acknowledging some of the choices that contributed to that outcome. Removing Frogmore Cottage was one of them. Failing to create an environment where Harry felt his family would be protected was another. Allowing tensions to harden over years rather than addressing them directly also played a role. These are uncomfortable realities, which may explain why so many media discussions prefer focusing on emotional headlines instead. Grandfather misses grandchildren is certainly more sympathetic than examining the decisions that helped create the separation. But sympathy without context is just public relations. The British media often frames Harry and Meghan's California life as some kind of exile. That's an interesting interpretation, honestly, because from the outside, it doesn't look much like exile. It looks like a couple raising their children in a spacious home surrounded by sunshine, privacy, and, well, opportunity. It looks like people who escaped a situation that made them unhappy. It looks like individuals who chose autonomy over obligation. Most people would recognize that as freedom. Of course, none of this means family reconciliation is impossible. Families reconcile all the time. Relationships can heal. People can change. Distance can sometimes create perspective. But genuine reconciliation requires more than carefully placed headlines suggesting someone misses their grandchildren. It requires honesty. It requires accountability. And sometimes it requires acknowledging that decisions have consequences. You can't remove a family's home, dispute their security concerns, allow years of hostility to fester, and then expect a Hallmark movie ending to appear on schedule. Life doesn't work like that. Families certainly don't work like that. For now, Harry and Meghan appear focused on the life they have built in California. And frankly, it's difficult to see why they would trade it for the chaos they left behind. The weather is better, the house is bigger, the privacy is greater, and perhaps most importantly, the rules are their own. As for the endless commentary suggesting that Harry and Meghan should somehow be responsible for fixing every fracture in the family, that argument grows weaker with time. Relationships require effort from all sides. Not just the side that left, not just the side expected to forgive, and certainly not the side that had its home taken away. If King Charles truly wants a meaningful relationship with his grandchildren, then heartfelt briefings to the press won't be enough. The palace can spin stories all day long, but eventually reality catches up. And reality has a stubborn tendency to remind people that bridges are not rebuilt through headlines. They're rebuilt through actions. That's a lesson the Sussexes appear to have learned. The question is whether the palace has learned it too.